Last 16 Investec Champions Cup playoffs. 16 teams. We know the Bulls are there. We know the Stormers are there. They have the chance to create history. We've been talking about it a lot. We spoke about it when everyone qualified, and we said utopia would be Stormers winning Toulon, Bulls win at Glasgow, and they're back in Cape Town, 55,000 sellout at the DHL Stadium, and that would be for a next Saturday. I did say to Dobbo, I think he was 1,500 kilometers away in the air, had a little message exchange. I said, you will win. I just need the Bulls to do their thing, okay, to get to Cape Town. But outside of that, so much South African interest in the Investec Champions Cup playoffs. And there's been so much South African history in the Investec Champions Cup over the 31 years that it's been played.
Yep.
So many South Africans have won gold. But traditionally in the past, when there was no South African clubs involved, they were winning in the colours of either a French club, an Irish club, an English club. Sadly, I can't say it was with a Welsh club or a Scottish club or an Italian club. But plenty of them who have won it. And if you look, Zelzy, at the makeup, there are so many. There's just 2 of the 16 teams that don't have South African representation, either in their playing squad or their coaching staff.
How is that possible, mate?
I mean,
there's got to be a connection somewhere.
I mean, who needs the Curry Cup when you got the Investec Champions Cup? We've been there, we've done it. Northampton Saints, they kick it off on Friday night at home against Cusp, and I think that's the one, the easiest one for me to call would be that one. Oh, when the Saints
that's the easiest one.
Marching in.
Really?
Well, no, there are a few other easy ones.
Okay.
Home ground advantage is everything.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing against our South African team. But Henry Pollock, Northampton Saints, you and I are huge Henry Pollock fans.
Yes, love Henry Pollock. Love what he's doing for rugby in the UK. I think for the next gen fan and the next gen player, I think Pollock's fantastic, polarizing figure. But generally, guys that sort of upset the status quo generally are quite polarizing. I'm not necessarily endorsing everything about Henry Pollock, but I do love the fact that he's breaking the mold a bit. And like you've mentioned a few times, a few traits that remind us of Bobby Skinstad in his heyday. And I think he's a hell of a player as well. So if England can find a few more Henry Pollocks, the future's bright.
When I look at Henry Pollock playing for Northampton Saints, and I mean, he's been outstanding for them in the last 2 seasons. Into the England setup, came off the bench against the All Blacks, got the grubber through, scored, showed everyone, come on. Said if the All Blacks didn't exist, you wouldn't even know where New Zealand was. Lovely comment that got all the Kiwis riled. And kind of made a criminal judgment error. And you expect that of naivety and youthfulness. It's one thing to go through under the sticks at the Stade in Paris against France to score the match-winning try and give the crowd the bird, the bird. But when your mate does it and you've got to jump on his back and basically embarrass your mate, embarrass yourself, embarrass your teammates because there's still 90 seconds left, and then cock it up on the counter-attack, and you lose the match, and everyone's going, I mean, that will haunt you for a bit.
Yeah.
But when he plays rugby, and his histrionics and his showmanship is about him, brilliant. And he did that in the Prem in the last week against Saracens, and I thought he was outstanding. I've seen the highlight clips of that. And everyone was saying, when Henry Pollock is Henry Pollock, the rugby player, he's great value. But I never want him to stop being Henry Pollock, who he is.
Be authentic. Be authentic to who he is.
Exactly. Yeah. And I can tell you now, 62,000 people will come to Ellis Park when the Springboks play England on the 4th of July in the Nations Championship, and they'll come to see some South Africans smash Henry Pollock. But I've got a little bit of a caution about that, guys. I heard the same narrative 2 seasons ago, when the Saints come marching in with Trocky and the boys, when Trocky Augustus was still playing for them and they came to Loftus, and it's like, has he experienced our attitude and our altitude? And he was the player of the match. Northampton came from behind to win. Cameron Hanekom had a great game that day.
Yeah.
And Henry Pollock was outstanding.
Yeah.
And the Bulls players tried to hit him off the ball, on the ball, round the ball, in the tunnel. And he played well.
Yeah.
So he had skill. He's a great footballer. And as you say, he has broken the mold. And probably his biggest victory was that he upset Sir Clive Woodward.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. That's what got me on board straight away. So I concur 100%. Yeah, I just love the fact. I think for too long, England's been quite sort of prim and proper about their sport, and there's a very sort of amateur traditional mindset to their sport in a lot of areas when it comes to rugby. And I think that's good and well, and that's great. But I don't think you can be consistently successful at the top level like that. And I think a guy like Henry Pollock has the ability to potentially shake them out of that slumber, wake them up, and make them pretty ferocious, which would be great.
And you know, for South Africans, we love the Pollocks. There was Peter and Graham Pollock when you were about 5.
I remember Graham.
Yeah, I was about 25. Then the son, Sean Pollock, some may know. But there's also another son. The son of Graham Pollock was Anthony Pollock. Provincial cricketer, but never quite kicked on to the national setup. So we know the Pollocks here. But Henry Pollock, he'll be playing for Northampton against Cusp. And I got Northampton at home at Franklin Gardens to win it quite comfortably and to make the quarterfinals. They have played well in Europe. 7 English teams in the last 16, 4 French Giants and 5 URC. And that is a credit to these English clubs know how to play knockout rugby. They may not know how to play as a national team knockout rugby because they won 1 World Cup in 10 attempts. But then also, it's not just strictly an English composition with these English teams. There is foreign influx.
That's exactly it.
But their club structure, the kind of way they play, is well suited to knockout rugby. And what surprised me is outside of Saracens, and you've had Northampton went on a great run and got to the final last year.
Yeah.
You would expect a bit more English dominance in the Investec Champions Cup over the history of 30 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we talk about the main teams in this competition. It's Toulouse. Bordeaux got their first start. Toulon's got 3. Leinster's obviously there with their history. So, the English don't necessarily have a bunch of stars to their credit, but what they do have is an ability to be successful in this competition, at least reach the playoffs, because 7 of the 10 teams in the Prem are in the round of 16, which is a hell of a credit to them. Like you say, the influx of foreign players, I think, is massive there. And I think that the Prem is technically a good competition. I've raised my concerns around the physicality of it, but the proof's in the pudding. You've got 7 teams into the round of 16. Let's see how many of them make it through to the next round. At least 2, I think, will be eliminated this week because you've got Harlequins hosting Sale and you've got Bath hosting Saracens. So at least those 2 teams are going to drop out. But they're all contenders, aren't they? I mean, they're in the mix.
Completely. And going away from Northampton Saints, you look at Bath, Johan van Graan.
Done great things.
Wonderful servant of the Bulls. Baden van Graan has huge status in this country as one of the most well-known administrators and really integral to the Bulls, South African rugby. Johan van Graan started as a 16-year-old with Heineke Meyer as an analyst for the Bulls, then joined the Bulls basically after school, became Heineke's assistant, went to the box with Heineke, became his assistant, then went to Munster and replaced Rassie and Jacques Nienaber on the recommendation of Rassie and Jacques Nienaber, took them to semi-finals, then went to Bath, got there. Bath were basically, it come off the back of losing by something like 60 points to Saracens at home at the Rec. And everyone was talking about the 1996 glory days of Bath. They reminded me a bit of Western Province in the day that hadn't quite kicked on to the professional age. And all the traditions, they were the dominant team in the amateur era. And he just kind of said, we'll turn it around. And hell, he's done it. He got the other kind of treble last year. He won the EPCR Challenge Cup, he won the Prem, and he won the Knockout Cup in England. And he said the big one was the Investec Champions Cup. And they were poor in the pool stages. This year they've been outstanding. The only game I think they dropped was against Cast away from home. But other than that, been brilliant. And at the Rec, up against Saracens, that to me is potentially the clash of the round, because it's mate against mate. And as good as Bath have been, Saracens 3 times winners of this competition. They know how to win big knockout games. And when you got the likes of Owen Farrow and Maro Itoje and Jamie George in the mix, and Jamie George, that guy can play.
And he's played almost 100 tests, so hasn't he played 100? I don't know. He's played a lot.
Taught, he says, by John Smith and Skulk Brits. He learned from two of the best, two very different hookers at Saracens. I also loved his quote, just going back to Henry Pollock, when he said, we love Henry Pollock. He's an idiot, but he's our idiot. We love him.
But I could definitely see the Smitty and Jamie George. I'm not really seeing the connection with him and Skulk Brits, but okay.
I think what he learned from Skulk Brits is not to play at 10 or 12, but to kind of stick to his guns at hooker. But, you know, he's also, and you and I are cut from the same cloth there. We don't talk brands. We talk teams and we talk club history and club culture. That guy's Saracens through and through.
Oh, full on.
And he's kind of, that's his club. And winning in Europe is so huge for him. And he spoke about it at the start of the competition, at the launch in London, about what it means, what European club rugby means to those clubs. And he also said the more South Africa plays in this competition, the more they will start to get that feeling when they have big wins at home or they have a big away win. They will start getting that sense of this is bigger than a URC, a Prem, or a top 14 game.
Yeah.
But them against Saracens, but it's at the Rec. Who do you call there, bud?
Man, I'm going to go with Bath. I mean, they're way higher up on the Premiership standings. I think they've got 30 points on Saracens. But for Saracens, I mean, that's a great shot at redemption, isn't it? If they can knock Bath over to advance to the quarterfinal, in a way, it kind of mirrors what's happening with the Toulon Stormers game. Toulon struggling in the top 14, and that competition is a great opportunity for them to get some redemption. But I am going to go with Bath. I'm going to say Northampton to beat Custer, and I'm going to say Bath to beat Saracens, the home teams.
All right, I'm going to go with Saracens.
Really?
Only because you went with Bath.
What?
And I know you know your French rugby. I don't know if you know your English Premier rugby, okay? So
really? You say Saracens for the win?
Yeah.
You like that whole backstory I gave you there, didn't you?
Yeah, and if I'm wrong on Tuesday, I'll say sorry. I'm going for Saracens for the win and put your house on
what?
it, okay?
Just because there's an SA in Saracens.
Exactly. SACS. Yeah, no, SAR.
Yeah.
But so I've got Saracens to win and I've got Northampton Saints to win. So there's two Prem sides in the last 8 already. Good going there, England in the Prem. We're going to chat Stormers Toulon just now. Then obviously we've got the Glasgow Warriors, Franco Smith. When he wins, we claim it as a South African team with Carl Steyn. When they lose, they're all Scottish, okay? Toulouse Bristol Bears. Good game, but I got Toulouse at home. I don't think anyone beats Toulouse in Toulouse in a knockout
No
game.
doubt. I expect Toulouse to be in the running for the semis at least.
Okay, so we're both going Toulouse to win, eh?
Definitely.
Not to lose.
Not to lose.
Okay, and then this is the interesting one. Harlequins, Sales Sharks. And Harlequins have been abysmal in the Prem. I think they won for the first time in like 4 months last week, right near the death. But they've been particularly good in the pool stages and given a real charitable win by the Stormers, 61-10, when the Stormers sent a side that hadn't really played together, knowing they pretty much had qualified already if they win at home against the Tigers.
Yeah.
But Harlequins, this is what they've got to play for. They don't have anything outside of this. They're going to battle to make a top 6.
That is true.
In the Prem. So I think that kind of thing, Zels, how these guys switch it on for European matches and then kind of completely switch it off when they go back into the domestic league.
Yeah.
And they are up against Sales Sharks, the last standing kind of the Dupreers. I mean, they had made that their home. Dan Dupreer, Rob Dupreer, and Jean-Luc, and they've all kind of headed off to greener pastures in France. It's because it's that English derby again, not necessarily a gimme to the home team, but at the Stoop. Do you think Sales Sharks can do enough to go away from home and win, or do you think Harlequins do it?
No, so in my head, I'm thinking Harlequins, right? I've seen what they can do when they turn it on, but something is telling me that the Achilles heel for Harlequins is when teams don't play the way that Harlequins want them to. They don't really have the ammo to kind of turn the game around. You know, they can be very dangerous if you give them opportunities if you're a bit sloppy, but if you just play some really boring rugby and smash and bash and you're effective in that, I think you can overpower them. And I think that's pretty much has been traditionally Sales' MO when they had all that South African stock there. Like you mentioned, that's gone out the back door. But Sale and Harlequins have both won 3 out of their 12 premiership games this season. Sale are 2 spots ahead of them, a couple of points ahead of them. I feel like Sale can win this game. I think it's a narrow margin here. I think Sale can edge Harlequins at the Stoop.
I'm also going with Sale.
Really?
So we are going to defy history this weekend. We're going with quite a few away wins, I think.
Yo.
Okay. And then we've got Leinster against Edinburgh. You've just kind of been involved in crunching numbers, doing the data with Edinburgh. You guys got past them in the URC. Leinster in Dublin against Edinburgh. For me, that's just a gimme. It doesn't matter what team Leinster puts out at home. I've got them to win that game by 20 plus points.
Agreed. I think it's a comfortable win for Leinster. Edinburgh counting a bunch of injuries, just had to travel home from South Africa. I think even though Leinster have lost Atticus Neyman to long-term injury, I think they are good for the big win.
And then Bordeaux's Beagles.
Yeah.
Bordeaux Black.
Yeah.
Against Leicester's Tigers. To me, another
Same.
gimme at home. Could be an entertaining game. I think you'll find a Leicester side that be competitive for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But Bordeaux, defending champions, won all four. Outstanding. They got Louis Barret. They got Damien Penaud. They got Gilibert, Luku. They got Jean-Luc Deprez. They've got so many good players. They can play transitions.
Yep.
They play with their backs. They've got most of the French back line. They've got a very, very good pack at home. They're one hell of a team to beat. And we talk about that top 14 form and how competitive that league is. They've won 12 out of 20
Yes.
to be fourth. So they've lost 8 times in the league. They don't easily lose, and they haven't for a bit as defending champions in the Investec Champions Cup.
Yeah, they've got to bring their defense to the party. I think if they fix that, they get back to being at their best. Their attack is quality, and they've shown they can do it before, obviously. And they've got tons of talent. You mentioned some of the players there. They are a real team. It's going to be hard to see, aside from obviously the Stormers and the Bulls advancing to the final. Outside of that situation, it's going to be hard to see a French team not winning the Champions Cup this year, because the quality in Toulouse and Bordeaux is massive.
Yeah, and they play the final in the north of Spain. I mean, it's like...
Down the road.
It's just down the road.
It's like going to George.
Yeah, well, maybe not even going to George, just stopping off in Stellenbosch. So that also is a factor. Very convenient, very comfortable.
Yeah.
But you look at Bordeaux and Toulouse, because of the way the pool stages went, they will meet in a quarterfinal in Bordeaux. And we want basically a kind of situation where Toulouse then knocks them over, because Bordeaux was top, so they will always get that home ground advantage. And somehow, if it should be that we have to play, I think we may even be on the other side of the draw where we have to go and play in Dublin against the Leinster. But either way, you're going to go somewhere. Once you get to a semi-final, you're going to have to go somewhere, and then you've got to go to a neutral venue for that final. But I've got Leinster to win. I got Bordeaux to win quite comfortably by 20.
Yeah.
And then, which brings us to our 2 big ones, our guys. And we've got the Stormers. They flew over on Tuesday night to Toulon, the Stade Mayol, the home where Bakkies Botha was the butcher, formerly known as the Enforcer. Bakkies, a story. Yeah. He made people bleed there. Only time I ever saw Bakkies bleed as well, Census Johnson and Bakkies had a little bit of a scrap. Census Johnson, the big Samoan prop who was playing for Toulouse. There's lots of it on YouTube.
There's big and then there's Census Johnson.
Yeah, it's big on YouTube. It's the one time Bakkies was very happy. He was walking off, he split his eye, bottom of the ruck. Still wanted to continue the ruckus. But Bakkies always told me that when he left here, he was the original enforcer. Never went to Toulon for a pension payout. He went there to be part of a Galacticos team that could win. And they did. 3 Investec Champions Cups in succession, won a top 14, and a wonderful part of that team. Bernard Laporte, who coached him at one stage, rated Bakkies as the best player ever to play for him, be it for the French national team, for Toulon, wherever he went. And he just said when he got there, he had to earn the respect of the people and show he's not there just for a paycheck. And Enforcer, that's him at the Bulls, more so than his early days at the Falcons in the box. And he said he opened a butchery to teach those oaks, Bolton and Boerewors, and he said they must bleed. So whenever anyone came to the Stade Mayol, Bakkies just clocked them, early on. Yeah. And then the crowd went ballistic when an oak went off for blood. Butcher had struck again. So it's going to be intimidating. It's incredible. Ryan Freder, many years back when Toulon was still in the Pro 12 and Victor Matfield was playing over there, Anton Oliver, George Grigantano Umaga, and they were playing for promotion to get into the top 14. He went over there. It's just like the craziest passion and atmosphere. And we are going to chat to Bryan Habana. We caught up with him. You're going to listen to Bryan Habana. We caught up with him a little bit earlier this morning and chatted about playing for Toulon, playing for the Stormers, and obviously playing for the Bulls. And you'll hear it from the horse's mouth from Mr. Habana. But for the Toulon match, You've been in camp. Psychologically, the boys are up for it. 11 from 14. They were 3 from 4. There's no reason why the Stormers can't win this game if they play well.
No, absolutely. I mean, but that's true of every game. I think Toulon is a daunting prospect. You've got to fly to France. You've mentioned the history there. But like you've also said before, you're not playing the jersey. You're playing the guy that's in it today. And I suppose for Toulon, they've got a couple of injuries that they're smarting from. They're missing a few players. They haven't had the greatest season. That makes them a little bit dangerous because you're just waiting for that response. It's a pedigree team. They've got some quality players in the squad. And the guys that step in for the next man up is always trying to sort of make his mark and retain that position. So there's always the possibility, that variable of this breakout performance. And, switching from URC to top 14 opponents brings with it it's quite a steep learning curve. You have an idea how all the teams are playing in the URC. When you change focus now, you've got a top 14 opponent. There is a change to that. You've got to get on a plane, fly to a place where they don't speak English. There is a challenge to that kind of a prospect. But like you say, there's quality in the Stormers team. I mean, he's second in the URC. We've got some fantastic players across the board. There's no reason why if we turn it on, we can't beat Toulon.
And Zels will always say we because he is with the Stormers, and I say we is because I just do love the Stormers. I live in Cape Town. I've always backed the Stormers, the blue and white hoops, to see them out on the big stage. With the black shorts, the traditional socks. I love it. And history. If the Stormers win away from home against Toulon and the Bulls win in Glasgow and we have that quarterfinal in Cape Town, 55,000.
Yeah.
And until Saturday, we're allowed to dream, we're allowed to hope. And maybe hope materializes and we do have that game. It will be great for the competition. It will be great for South Africa.
Big time.
It will be like having a Currie Cup final. The whole of Europe's watching.
Mate.
It will be brilliant. So we've had the URC final in Cape Town, Bulls against the Stormers. We've had some big quarterfinals. Why not the Investec Champions Cup quarterfinal in Cape Town?
If we can't host the final, we found a way to bring a playoff game.
Yeah, 2 weeks earlier. Would have been a month earlier and 2 weeks earlier. But if you look at Toulon, 9 from 20 in the top 14.
Yeah.
But then the table is 11 from 20 and 9 from 20, basically separate you from 3rd to 11th.
True. That is true. I mean, like you say, Toulon in 11th place. They've won 9 out of 20 matches. They've drawn 1. They've lost 10. They've got on 45 points. The team that's in 4th place, Bordeaux, they're on 59. So the difference between those two is 14 points, which is not a huge gap if you consider the space on that table. And I suppose for Toulon, they've historically always been in the reckoning for the top 14. For them, being in 11th place will be a sort of bitter pill to swallow. And again, I think that makes them particularly dangerous because the way to kind of respond to that and make some form of amends, salvage your season, is to win a home playoff, advance to the quarterfinals, and hopefully ambush some teams there. So that's what they'll be chasing.
All right. So in chatting to Dobbo before he left, I said, go well, my friend. Go conquer the French. And then enjoy the croissants and the baguettes and wear your beret, the beret of a victor. And he said, merci beaucoup, Keo. Merci beaucoup. And I said, just go and do it. Do it for Volk Vaderland in Kaapstad, okay? Dobbo didn't quite understand that, but he knew it was a battle cry to go out there and do it.
Yes.
And a guy who's done it, he's done it for the Stormers, he did it for the Bulls, and he did it in the most spectacular way for Toulon. He won back-to-back Investec Champions Cups. He won a top 14. He was an icon at the Stade Mahal. And the fans of the Investec Champions Cup over a 30-year period voted him one of the 2 best winners to ever play in the competition. Bryan Habana joined me earlier this morning, and this is what he had to say about the Stade Mahal. Bryan, thanks for your time. A big one for you this weekend. Toulon, you were there, you loved it. Stormers, you were here in Cape Town, you loved it. And later in the day, Bulls. My question is, were you ever in Glasgow? Do you have a kilt?
I don't have a kilt. I might have to get one. I'm not quite sure I'd go fresh kilt, no underwear. But I have been in Glasgow. I actually played our SA under-21 tournament back in 2004 in Glasgow under Peter de Villiers. So some really good memories there. Had a really good tournament. And but in terms of a Glasgow jersey, that's something I don't have.
Okay, great. Okay, so it's all South African, all French this weekend. The Glasgow influence obviously comes with Franco Smith and Carl Steyn. But a question from Zels. He said before we get started, 37 tries for the Bulls in 61 games, 19 for the Stormers in 57, and 23 in 66 for Toulon. Why did you pick 1 out of 3 in Cape Town and 1 out of 2 in Pretoria?
Oh man, if only I knew why. Geez, I mean, the first year I got to Cape Town, myself and Jock Three were actually leading the try scoring race. I think I scored 7 in that first season of Super Rugby, and what actually got us really going in 2012. Here we reached we ended number 1 in the log in Super Rugby, and I think we only had 2 bonus point victories around scoring 4 tries. To give you a bit of an indication, we had Jacques Nienaber at the helm of our defense, and it was very much a change of tune or what the Stormers' regular environment of play is about attacking and flair. And we actually became so solid in our defense that sometimes we thought that defense won us games. So extremely disappointed in the one in every 3 games, dotting down for the Stormers. But hopefully some memories that went down well.
No, definitely. 79 in total, 79 tries. And that season you talk about, you Oaks beat all 5 New Zealand sides and had the best defensive record. I don't think that's ever been done again in Super Rugby. We are talking Investec Champions Cup, formerly known obviously as the Heineken Cup. When you were playing 3 in a row, you were part of the last 2 incredible Toulon side back then. They called it the Galacticos. They called it the World 15. Stade Mayol. Just give the South African public a little bit of insight into, you've played in Cape Town, you've played in Pretoria, the 2 biggest clubs in South Africa, and then to go play for that team in Toulon. You guys won a top 14. You won 3 successive European titles. Just how amazing is it to be there, and how different is it to the South African scene?
I think to give people a bit of understanding here into why French rugby is as great as it is, and now sort of courted by Yon in 2007, and then had a few chats with Mourad Boujal in 2009, and I was just at a time period in my career in 2012 where I'd been involved in Super Rugby for 8-9 years. I'd won 2 trophies with the Bulls, and just wanted to be in a different place. And when I went to Toulon for the second time and had discussions, Bernard Laporte actually sat me down, and this was the end of 2012. He said, listen, he thinks that Toulon have got a great chance to win Europe. And I was like, Bernard, like, seriously, man. He goes, no, we've got Johnny, we've got Bucky, we've got Joe Fadika, we've got Carl Heyman, like Ali Williams is coming, Drew Mitchell, Matt Guitar. And I was like, cheapest people. I'd played for the Barbarians twice before that. I'm like, that is actually sounding like Barbarian side. And if you've never been to Toulon, the Côte d'Azur is just phenomenal. It really is amazing. So the decision was easy, I think, particularly in trying to prolong my career and wanting to be around with the Springboks for 2015, but really become a part of doing something very, very different, going to Europe, and a side that I thought was going to do quite well in Europe in 2013. I didn't see them, beating Clermont in that first final. But then when I got there, I actually had a pretty injury-ravaged first season where I think I only played 12 games, of which 2 of those were actually on the bench. But that understanding of Toulon, the Toulon supporters and French rugby is just so different because there's a culture with each and every team based on the city, based on the environment, the history. So we had this sort of gladiatorial type walk when we arrived at the stadium. The Toulon fans like hitting us on the back and cheering. And then we obviously had our very crazy, I want to call him a mascot, who has his whole face and head tattooed doing the pilu pilu. So it was throwing all opposition fans and teams and everyone into the cauldron of this is a boiling pot. But as a stadium, there's only like 18,000 people, right? So I'll be brutally honest, Pretoria, Newlands, when we played back in the early years in our DHL stadium, the South African fans are just amazing, like unbelievable, amazing in every way and form. And it's very different, but I think there's a lot more personal environment with that French way of doing things. And like I said, winning the double in that first year was beyond my wildest dreams. And I'll share a clip with you guys that you might show around. We had, I think, 60,000 people in Toulon celebrating us with arriving in both trophies at the port. We had the likes of a Drew Mitchell, Matt Guitar jumping off the boat in the port, and then it was absolute carnage and chaos. But to show the level of support, and it took me back to, what winning a World Cup was like for South Africa in 2007, and just seeing the phenomenal passion, papers being thrown in the air when you score your bonus point try. It's just so special.
You're one of an elite group, Rugby Championship, then the Tri Nations, World Cup, Super Rugby, and the big one in Europe. Again, the Investec Champions Cup, we've got the URC. There's still those who look at, can we reinvent the Currie Cup? But again, to give the South African public a perspective on just how big winning in Europe is to those clubs, be it French clubs, be it the English, Irish clubs, the Scottish clubs, in relation to the Prem Top 14 and obviously the older kind of pro rugby, which is now the URC. We're like new into it. Like, how big is it?
No, it's huge. And I think the history has in somewhat changed given the inclusion of South Africa in the URC, which has now led to qualification for some of the teams into a European competition in the Investec Champions Cup. But I think the history of what the Investec Champions Cup is all about, and you go back to the late 90s, the early 2000s, and the likes of the Lessers of the world, the Baths of the world, the Toulouses of the world, the Lenses of the world. It's probably currently the toughest tournament to win on a global rugby competition perspective. I think the heritage of the Currie Cup that we maybe have lost a little bit to something disappointing, given how as South Africans we absolutely love the Currie Cup. Super Rugby was for me just amazing. I'll never forget, not only as a youngster watching it on TV, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch those games in New Zealand, but then getting to play against the best players in the Southern Hemisphere. And what the South African teams now have the fortune of is we get to play against some of the best players in the world, plying their trade in the Northern Hemisphere. And that's just a beautiful competition. And the fact that, only the Sharks have been successful in winning the Challenge Cup competition gives us a bit of indication in how tough it is with all the travel, everything that logistically is involved within the Champions Cup and how it currently lies. Becoming a winner of the Investec Champions Cup is just so tough. And like I said, I think we're all holding thumbs that in the not too distant future, a South African team will do it. But yeah, the DHL Stormers going to Stade Mayol this weekend will know exactly how tough the Investec Champions Cup is when they take on a team, really one of the most successful in Europe, going to defend their own territory.
If you look at top 14, we know how tough that competition is, given no one plays as many games, and then you're combining it with playing in the Investec Champions Cup if you're in that top 8 French clubs. Back in your day, it wasn't an issue. You guys were always challenging for both, or were in a position to win both. You won the top 14 once, and you did the double, and you won 3 in a row when it came to Investec Champions Cup in Europe. Toulon are 9 from 20 and in 11th place. But if you look at that log, the team that's third is 11 from 20. How congested the top 14. How much do we read, perhaps falsely, into a league position there going into this match? And people say, but Toulon are 11th on the table. They won 9 games. The Stormers should beat them. They second the URC. Is it just a completely different mindset from the players when they think Europe?
I think it has to be a completely different mindset when you think Europe. And I think the Stormers, had a great victory up at Loftus a few weeks ago, and sort of snuck things in last week. But going up to Europe, firstly, you have to all of a sudden take logistics into consideration. I'm not quite sure how they've flown this week, but a lot of those big boys having to sit in economy class because of how logistics are currently put into place means that your body's a bit stiffer. Going into hostile enemy territory and trying to win a game is extremely challenging. And you're coming up against a Toulon outfit that I think the advantage of being at home in this round is extremely important, particularly with the hope of getting to a quarterfinal round. So the Stormers will be extremely challenged in what they're going to be facing this weekend. Toulon at home is probably one of the most difficult environments to play rugby in, and I think Dobbo will have that sense. I know there's been quite a few asks about some of the good eating spots in Toulon. There's not many, so I'm not quite sure the restaurants are big enough for some of our South African boys. But I think firstly, accepting the culture, accepting that it's going to be hostile, accepting that it's going to be challenging, accepting that the crowd's going to be as noisy as what they've ever heard, and that Toulon are wanting to put their best foot forward. So, the Stormers have had a bit of a topsy-turvy season. They seem to be getting a little bit of momentum, but in a hostile environment like Stade Mayol, they're going to find it, as challenging as it comes.
What do the Stormers, in a nutshell, have to do to beat Toulon and to beat that crowd?
Yeah, so the one thing I would definitely suggest to Dobbo, Brannas, and the team is you need to try silence the crowd, because as soon as you silence that, a crowd anywhere away from home, you know that you are getting under their skin and you are making their life extremely difficult. South Africans are known, and I think Bakkies Botha was probably the best example for it at Toulon, the physicality. And as soon as you start really just stepping up that physical ability, but in a game like this, the opportunities are going to be few and far between, and the Stormers haven't always capitalized on the opportunities that they've been presented with over the last couple of weeks. So I think the clinical aspect thereof, but the physical ability to silence the crowd, dominate a Toulon forward pack that really has been gelling extremely well. A lot of international based players still currently plying their trade. The likes of Carl Sinclair, Dave Ribbons, Charles Olivan, just won the Six Nations with France and has been a stalwart in that Toulon jersey, even when I was there. So again, arriving physically, using the skill set to be able to adequately maximize on the chances they have, because I don't see there being many chances. And, if you don't use those to the best of your ability, rugby is a very tough game to win.
All right, Toulon, I mean, they love you. They love you. We love you in Cape Town, okay? And even when you were at the Bulls, and people forget you started your career in that wonderful jersey playing for the Lions. So, and if Mike Sharman hasn't told anyone, Habana was at Cares, he does have the corner. Sharman doesn't have the corner, okay? We keep on reminding him. He's got Retroviron and the great agency corner. But the greatest compliment ever paid to you and Bakkies Botha in 30 years of Investec Champions Cup, European Cup history, the fans voted you the best winner and Bakkies the best for lock. I mean, how big a compliment was that for you?
Yes, yeah, I don't know how you can read into social media things that sounds like. I think, a massive privilege and honor. That 3-year tenure at Toulon, or the 5-year tenure, but that 3 years of experiencing Europe to the degree in which we won was just amazing. We had, I'll never forget that semi-final against Leinster, that I scored the intercept try at in Marseille, which was just, the crowd erupting, Murat Boudjelal going absolutely off his rocker. So extremely humble that, if I look at some of the players that have played and plied their trade for Toulon and done so with such magnificence and astuteness, I'm extremely humbled. I'm hoping it was because I eventually got to learn a little bit of the French language at some point, and Bakkies got his because of his physicality. But extremely humbled and also extremely proud that I was part of a Toulon team that became, I think, the first ever French side to win the double, to then become the first ever team in Europe to do 3 years in a row. Being a part of 2 of those 3 teams was incredibly special. And I think year one we did it against, in my year one we did it against Saracens, and in year 2 against Clermont at Twickenham. So yeah, humbled, and I've definitely tried to say my piece in French. Mais on espère pour ce week-end, le meilleur vainqueur peut gagner.
Wonderful. Now, I'm not going to ask you to pick a winner, Cape Town or Toulon. I know they both have a massive place in your heart, but I also know that when it comes to the Bulls, that's where it really all started for you. Must be great for you to see Uckers there, to see them starting to do well again, and be in a position going to play a team like Glasgow. They may be in form, but it's not an unknown factor for them. They have gone to Scottstown before and won. Um, there, I'm going to ask you to pick a winner.
I think from purely from a South African perspective, I'd love to see the DHL Stormers go on and do their thing in Toulon. I think Toulon are going to be a tough nut to crack. Glasgow exactly the same. I think Johan Ackermann is really starting to find his feet within that pool setup. It's again been very topsy turvy. It's been very volatile, and they've really started to show glimpses of a Bulls heritage that became so successful, in that tenure of winning 3 Super Rugby competitions between 2007 and 2010. They the dominant force in the Currie Cup, in sort of the early part of those 2010 years, and going up. It's still very much. Even though the clocks have changed, it's still very much cold and wet. So one thing I will say, if the Stormers want to go anywhere, Toulon is the best place weather-wise to go play rugby in the Northern Hemisphere. It'll probably be anywhere between 18 and 22 degrees, hopefully at Stad Major. Glasgow, on the other hand, is going to be miserable. So it's going to be a tight game where the forwards will need to rumble. And one of the things I hated was playing rugby in the winter in the Northern Hemisphere because wind, rain, snow, muddy fields. As a winger, I was hoping that Bucky's made a lot of contact because I was cold for most of it. So the Bulls will be able to get a little bit of momentum going into this game. That 50-22 that Willie LaRue kicked to close to seal off the game last week up at Loftus was really important, just to give them a little bit of that positive momentum going into the weekend. But they'll find it tough. I think what Franco Smith has done there has also been incredibly great for him as a coach. I got to do a bit of work with him in 2016 under Alistair Coetzee at the Springboks, and how he's managed to sort of really put his own way of doing things up there. It's never easy as a South African, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, going into a foreign environment that is totally different to your culture. But to be able to set a standard that has seen success, and Glasgow have got 1 or 2 over the Bulls also. So the Scots will be hoping, but like I said, I'm really rooting for Johan Ackers and the team to do well up north.
Well, I mean, they do.
So I'm going to say Bulls. I'm going to pull my thing. I'm going to say Bulls by 8 because then a try won't win it.
Yeah, Bulls, but I spoke to Ackers a while ago. He said he'll take 1, okay? Carl Steyn, he is a South African. He's the captain of Glasgow. Franco Smith, everyone knows him in South Africa. Just say he's done incredible things. You are also very good with your weather. It's apparently going to be 19 degrees in Toulon and a good 6 degrees in Glasgow. But it's been amazing chatting to you. We hope to see you in Cape Town next weekend when the Stormers play the Bulls in the Investec Champions Cup quarterfinal.
Yeah, I'll be the one sitting on the fence here for that game.
Thanks. All right, Zels.
What a legend.
Stormers to win it, obviously. We have to say it because we want to say it. Sorry for those with their earplugs in. Glasgow, Franco Smith, Carl Steyn. They've been outstanding this season.
The thing with Franco is I'm not really sure whether he sees it as Glasgow half full or Glasgow half empty. Where is he on that? I don't know.
He are very good.
Sure, it's a hell of a team, eh? Top of the log. And they've been consistently there. And Franco's obviously done fantastic things with the Warriors. And, there's a potential for the Stormers to play these guys 3 times before the end of the season, because if they beat the Bulls and we beat Toulon, we play them in the quarterfinal. We play them before the end of the season in the league phase. And you'd have to think you have to go through Glasgow to win the URC. So huge challenge to play the Warriors. Good luck to the Bulls, especially over there on their 4G surface. But yeah, you got to hope for the best for the Bulls. And I think, in terms of the quality of the squad, you can't write them off. That's for sure. The Bulls have got a chance.
Well, anytime you play in Scotland, you think Calcutta Cup, you think Bravehearts, you think Mel Gibson.
I don't know, I was going train spotting, but okay.
And you think lots of Sapphirs when it comes to rugby.
Yeah.
But Gil, my beautiful partner who went to Settlers in Bellville in the Western Cape, got a wonderful message from Leroy Bass, who was at school with her. And she shared it with me to share with you. And he's a big fan of yours, Zels. And he says, hey, he gives her all the platitudes. Tells how great she's looking. What are you doing with that guy? And then I think she lost him there when it's like, I'm in Scotland, okay? But he says, I've been listening to the Keo Zels podcast. Zels is the guy, okay? But he says, while going on my runs, and their rugby analysis, mainly Zels, is so insightful that it actually carried me all the way from Kilbargen, where we live, to see these ruins located in a neighboring village, Loch Vanash. It turns out a 10K round trip is exactly the length of one of the episodes.
There you go.
That guy's doing it in 32 minutes.
That's incredible, mate.
So he says, those ruins are a heavy reminder of the great Battle of Flodden, 1415-13.
Yeah.
And I was running through the same lands where Lord Semple and his son were laid to rest after the Scots fought the English. And then listening to Zels and you talk of modern battles on the pitch while passing through such an historic site, made me think of everyone who lost their lives back then. and burnt the lungs a bit more, but really was quite pertinent. And that's the one thing about rugby. As much and as passionate as we get, no one really should lose their lives. It is still a game.
Correct.
But isn't it cool to know that your insights and your analysis is getting the Oak through 10Ks?
Well, like I said to you, man, I think maybe we're going to have to extend the show to try and get him to 20 or 30. He's never going to do a marathon if we only have an hour episode.
Anyone out there wanting to do an ultra marathon, will let us know. The best of series, okay?
We should have an episode for a 10-second sprint, mate.
Yeah, but I mean, you're an historian. I know you've done a bit of research on that.
Yeah. So, Battle of Flodden, he said 1513. That is correct, mate. 9th of September, I'll have you know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know Scottish history well, but I love the culture. I love, obviously, Scotland's a great place. But yeah, what I did say, mate, was so the English and the Scots fought in the Battle of Flodden. The Scots had between 30 to 40,000 men. The English had between 20 to 30,000. So like I said to you, probably a few yellow cards there. That's why the English were down a few men. But it is a battle. I think the English won, had way fewer casualties. But just great that guy's taking a trot in that zone to be, I mean, I love history, so to be places like that, Normandy and those kind of things, is special. To be places where epic things in the history of humanity have happened is special, and the fact that he's having a trot listening to us there is something else, mate.
It is, and drop us if you're in the ferry going from Manly into Sydney, if you're in Kazakhstan, wherever you are in the world and you're listening to
Climbing
us.
Everest, mate.
Yeah, some guy said he was on the crap of the one stage and he's listening to us. That's the best place to be, eh? That's the best place to be. That's why we give you an
That's
hour.
where we are right now.
That's why we give you an hour. I'll be out there now, love. Just moving the bins.
2 minutes, love.
If you're moving the bins, 2 minutes. Got the earpods in and you're listening to us, and we make you feel like you miss home a bit, and it's a bit of South African. It's wonderful when we do get those comments.
Big
and
time.
we like to know, we make Zels especially makes you laugh. I make you cry when I keep on backing the Stormers, but lucky to be on the European stage. Thanks, Laurel, for that. Shout out back to you, mate. Keep on running.
Yep.
Keep on sending us those history fillers, and stay strong. Yeah, and Glasgow Bulls, they've gone there before in the USL and they won it. Embrace the occasion and actually enjoy it. Huh? And win or lose, there is the next Saturday. There's another competition. And I think that's the kind of pressure that we need to take off our players. You are good enough to win it, but you are playing one team that's got a lot of history and the one team that's so in form.
Also, Glasgow has got the number one defense in the league. Don't give them opportunities to tackle. Make them carry. Give them the ball, mate. Control the field. Good luck, Bulls. Back your boys to smash and bash. Let Ulrich make more tackles and carries, and let's see what happens.
And the context of Glasgow, for those who may not be following them that closely, they knocked over Toulouse at home in Scotstown. They were down by 20-odd points, and they came back in the second half, and they scored 26 unanswered points. One of the great nights for Glasgow Warriors in European rugby. Carl Steyn, son of Rory Steyn, was Nelson Mandela's primary bodyguard, went to Stellenbosch University, played in the Varsity Cup, went to Griquas on the win, got an opportunity to go to Scotland, qualified for Scotland through family ancestry, and it's been brilliant for them. And charismatic, good winner, and what I love most about him, so South African in his accent.
Didn't the Bee Gees write a song about him that's staying alive? What was that them?
He's staying alive,
Yeah.
man. So, as we say, it's always one of those you can't really lose when you've got two South African coaches at the helm.
Precisely.
But Akkers, he's been speaking a good game in terms of what he wants his team to do. They are at full strength. The big guns are going over. And there was an interesting clip that I saw. Andre Pollard, during the Live Golf at Stain City,
Yeah.
teeing off. Andre Pollard, incredible introduction to him. And the little clip of what he had to say was basically a World Cup final, kicking the winning kick in a semi-final is nothing compared to having to tee off with 20,000 people just chanting your name and looking at you. He said his hands were shaking. If you go onto social media, you will see that on the Southern Guards. There's copyright infringements, otherwise I'd be showing it to you. But Andre Pollard teeing off, he smashes it straight down the middle. He said it's the best moment he's ever had.
Wow.
Now you've got a guy who's won a World Cup. He's got ice in his veins, and he said it's the most nervous he's ever been for anything.
I mean, he does look like a golfer, old Andre, doesn't he?
Well, it just makes you think why he pots him so easy, because that's not pressure for him.
Yeah, exactly.
That, he said, was pressure.
Yeah,
So
wow.
for the Bulls to win, He's got to deliver. Andre Pollock.
Totally. And I think having the Stormers results in their back pocket going into that game is going to factor in. I think it's potentially going to help them. The Stormers beat Toulon. The Bulls are playing for an opportunity for a South African quarterfinal. I think that is a lot easier than having to hang around in Europe for another week and go and play Toulon at the Stade Mayol. So I don't know. Let's see. It would be great to have another Bulls Stormers game this season. Crowds come out for that. Everybody wants to see it. It's a Springbok trial all over again. The third edition of that this season will be glorious, especially if you're playing for a place in the Champions Cup semi-finals.
And Gil Pike and I will be in Arniston this weekend for the Easter weekend. And we'll be watching from the Arniston Hotel, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock kickoff. The Stormers first, and then obviously the Bulls. Arniston in the Overberg. But the last time I was there, I also watched the doubleheader, and the Stormers and the Bulls both won.
There you go, mate.
And guess what? There were more people watching the Bulls than there was watching the Stormers. The Bulls are the...
What?
They are the team that the Seahawks, the people love the Bulls there.
Really?
So yeah, I'll be watching there, and hopefully we'll be a doubleheader, and it'll be a wonderful way to spend Easter. I know a guy who's not going to be watching in Cape Town. He's one of our original fans of the show. Loves you as well. You've met him often. One of Ollie's good schoolmates from Sax, Steve McKeown, has moved to the United Kingdom.
What?
To pursue his career. He's a very talented man. Kira, his girlfriend, has gone with him. And we have to give him a bit of South African. We have to give him a bit of a reminder of what he left. He lived opposite de Waal Park. I just want to say, Stevie, it's like 28 degrees today. It's a beautiful day. The coffee tastes so good.
I mean, I just can't believe this news, because I was actually going to invite Steve round for a braai this afternoon. I mean, with the weather being so good and that. But no.
Yeah, so a toast and a shout out, and go well, mate, and keep on tuning into us, and never lose your South African accent.
All right, matey.
And never forget that you went to Sax. So Steve McKeown and Kira, good luck there. And we're talking about schools, buddy. And one of the great things on Easter is the schools festivals. Everywhere over Easter, it's the carnival of South African rugby. One of our wonderful sponsor alignments is Burger King, who have come on board. And what shocked me when Burger King came on board is that they came on board with new crispy, crunchy chicken.
Mate, to be honest, I never expected it.
I never expected. You know, I had to look that up.
I know. Me too.
And to know what it meant.
Yeah,
but
even me.
I'm happy because I never expected it.
Even you with your Portuguese background. But it means I never expected it.
Yeah.
Because I never expected it,
Exactly.
Okay? And in this country, you go chicken, you can't go wrong. Okay? So well done to Burger King for getting that.
Yes.
And their alignment with us, and then the school's rugger. But what I never expected, I knew they were improving. I never expected Stellenbosch to knock over Paul Gym 2019. And what I didn't expect was in the North-South pre-festival week up at Uffy's for them to knock over Grey College 26-21 earlier this week. Incredible result.
Incredible results, man. Stellenbosch bouncing back from that defeat to then go and win and beat Grey College is something else. I think that's a massively, obviously, famous victory for them. We've spoken about Stellenbosch, how they've sort of joined the elite upper echelon of the school teams in the country, and they just underlined it with that result. So, unfortunately, Menlo Park aren't quite there yet, so Paul Gym beat them 73-17, but a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, and then I saw that the Monument, I think it was Monument, there was a 75-43 game, okay? That reminded me of the Varsity Cup
must be
as well.
exhausted.
Yeah, 100 points going everywhere. But Paul Boys lost to Garsfontein, so let's give them a shout out. Garsfontein also edged Stellenbosch, and that's the one thing. When you wear the crown, it's a lot harder because you get hunted down.
Yep.
But great to see another Western Cape school adding to that. Basically, 8 out of top 10 being Western Cape. We never forget Charmy's boys, Cares, because Habana's from Cares. So is Malcolm Marks. Mike Sharman's from Cares as well. And Retrovara won all these awards with SAB and Castle again. Shout out to you, Sharmy. Just keep on scoring.
Keep
on
winning.
the field,
Keep winning.
off the field, keep winning. The festival's the big one. Obviously, there's Kernsey, there's St. John's, there's St. Stithians. But Pretoria Boys High, 125 years old. They're celebrating it. There's just so much cool rugby. Go onto the Supersport channels. Go to Schoolboy.co.za. You'll get up-to-date scores. And go onto SA Rugby Magazine. Dill Johnson, former Sax boy, he does the rap. And I've got to keep on saying this about Sax because I don't necessarily want to see the results, but...
Well, I was going to say they're playing Pretoria Boys High.
Well, there you go. And you know what they do say about Sax? Very charitable on the back. So they will do what a good scholar does. They may just give it to the host. But it'd be nice if they didn't and they actually pox their win.
Yeah.
John Smith went to Pretoria Boys High, World Cup winning captain. And for those of you who don't know, there was a guy who also went there. He's a very wealthy guy.
He knows the stairs well.
His name is Elon Musk.
Yes.
And he doesn't sponsor our show. But you know who does? Castle, Burger King, Stecco.
There we go.
Just want to thank, and then Macron who dressed us. We want to thank them all.
Yes.
You too, we aligned with SA Rugby Magazine, that behemoth. Zels used to be the editor. You too can win with SA Rugby Magazine. Like we said, you give us your bank details, you give us your bank code, and then you could win 100,000 Rand that we take out of your account and get back to you. No, we never do that. Sign up, register, get the Digimag, download it. It's free. And you could win 100,000 Rand, and that draw will be made just before the international season starts when we do beat England fireworks, 4th of July, at Ellis Park. Henry Pollock up against Cameron Hanekom. I mean, that's just worth it alone. But for this weekend, I'll be in Arniston, Zels will be in Blouberg, Dobber and the boys will be in Toulon, and Polly and Uckers will be in Glasgow, and it's going to be a great South African weekend. It's a history-making weekend. Pick the Stormers to win, pick the Bulls to win, and pick the Investec Champions Cup to be something we finally love.